a quick call to order. Can everybody, so just a few things. If you're not talking, keep your phone muted or your screen because it makes all kinds of echo noise depending on who's talking. I can mute you, so if you find that you weren't muted, then you are. I may have muted you, although I'm not very good at it, but April might mute you as well. I'm Sammy Patnode, the policy analyst for the Board of Electrology and Body Art Practitioners. And then I'm going to just go ahead and read the script. The Board of Electrologists and Body Art Practitioners Tattoo Rules Advisory Committee meeting is convening at 10:06 a.m. on April 5th, 2021. The Health Licensing Office in Salem, Oregon. By telephone conference call, I will now call roll. Brenda Sosa, not here yet. Daniel Gilsdorf. Gary Strong. Here. Kat Pipkin. Here. And Toma Mueller. Here. Members, when you wish to speak, please state your name for the record, or you can raise your little hand. It's more free-flowing. For the record, public members calling into the phone line are asked to email April Fleming at april.fleming@dhsohj.state.or.us, providing your first and last name. Public and interested parties' feedback may be heard during the public and interested feedback parties period if indicated on the agenda. Everyone is asked to use appropriate language, manners, and protocols when conducting board business. The meeting is now called to order. So I just want to kind of first start off with everyone introducing themselves, kind of who you are, how you're affiliated with the industry, and that kind of stuff. So I'm again Sammy Patnode, the analyst for the Health Licensing Office for this board specifically. I've been here 25 years, and I've had this board since its inception, so I'm pretty familiar with it for the most part. So Cynthia, do you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Cynthia Murphy. I am the qualification analyst for this board as well. And I, like Sammy, have been here for 25 years and again am pretty familiar with this board. And I write education, training, and examinations for the Health Licensing Office.
Gary, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Gary Strong. I am the public representative. I've been in the industry for about 5 years via my wife, who's graduated. I haven't done a lot of experience myself, but I do work up on OHSQ on the Hill, doing a lot of staff and accreditation for nurses. So looking at the agenda today, I feel like this is right up my alley of stuff that I've done for OHSQ.
Great. Daniel Gilsdorf, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure thing. My name is Dan Gilsdorf. I am a tattoo artist and a tattoo shop owner in Portland, Oregon. I've been tattooing professionally for 28 years, tattooing in Oregon for 23 years. I've attended a number of meetings there in Salem of the board over the years. So I'm a little bit familiar with some of the processes, but this is my first time really being up in it for real. So I'm looking forward to the experience.
We appreciate your participation. Yes. Brenda's still not on. Kat, you want me to call you Kat, right?
Yes, please.
Yes, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Kat Pipkin. I have been a tattoo artist in the industry for almost 5 years. Own and run a school in Portland, and excited to be here.
And Toma, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi there, my name is Toma Muller. Sorry my camera's not working this morning. I am a tattooer. I own Anatomy Tattoo and a tattoo school as well. I have been tattooing in Portland for 14 years, and I also help out with a small informal organization. And we've been attending meetings for about 2 years now, maybe 3. trying to help make positive change in our community. So I'm really excited to be here today and participating. Thanks.
Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and start off with giving you a little presentation. It's the training that we give RAC members. This is kind of a overview of how the government process works at the state level and at the board level, kind of expectations of advisory committee members. A couple things to tell you about me is I do have a laptop over here on the side, which I will roll over to occasionally. So I'm not leaving, I'm just rolling over to the laptop because I can't do work here, so I have to do it over there. So don't be concerned. I'm just right over here. So let me see, I have to share this. How do I share it?
The little rectangular box there.
Yeah, look at that. Share. Is that it?
Yep.
Can I do the big view? Look at that. Okay, so Rules Advisory Committee training, April 5th, 2021. Can't believe it's already April. Kind of refresher course on branches of government. There are 3. Legislative branch are the lawmakers. They are in session now. If you've heard, there's things going on over there. It's going very quickly, but they make the law, or often referred to as ORS statutes. And then the executive branch of government, which is what we are, Health Licensing Office, the board, and also an advisory committee, or the executive branch of government, we carry out what the lawmakers tell us to do. And then the judicial branch of government interprets those laws and basically takes both the executive branch and legislative branch and interprets what we've all come up with. And they all work in tandem, but they don't always work well together, but that's what we're. So we're focusing on the executive branch and what the legislature has allowed us to do as far as policy making and rules. So laws are enacted by the legislature, which I said I often get ahead of myself because I'm just talking along, so don't be surprised. So agencies are only given the power that we, from the legislature, we can't write extra power into the rules just because we feel like it. It has to be inherent and pretty much absolute in the law that we're allowed to do that. So, and I'll get a little bit more into that into detail. Laws that are promulgated by the agency are considered rules, which are what we're doing today. Again, they're kind of like a statute, but they're rules, so they're executive branch, but they still kind of hold the same weight as far as for licensing. You have to follow those rules or statutes that are set in place by the governing body, legislature or executive branch. This is just some vocabulary. I'll often say ORS, that means Oregon Revised Statutes. OAR means Oregon Administrative Rule. When we're looking at kind of deconstructing a law and how we're going to make a rule fit with whatever the law says, there are kind of three kinds of terms that we use when we're looking at. So there's exact terms. So if there's inexact terms and delegated terms. So an exact term that says, the law says you must be 21 years of age. We can't change that to be 20 years of age. It's a kind of absolute. If it says 30 days to apply, we can't make it 20 days to apply. Or if it says Marion County, we can't make it Polk County. So those exact terms, where there's no wiggle room for us to change it in the rule because the law says it's very specific. Inexact terms or give more flexibility. So a rule might say an employee can have white paper. Well, what's an employee? An employee can be a person or this, that. So they're inexact. There's give more definition. It can be a female or a male or, whatever an employee is determined. Or a weapon. It could be a knife, a gun, a pencil. So they're more inexact. There's more room for flexibility with some structure, but not so specific as an exact term. What's this? Oh, so when we're doing something else. Oh, delegated terms. So delegated terms are when basically the legislature says, executive branch or board or agency, you decide. So it says pass the examination approved by the board, pass the examination approved by the office. So those are things that So polysomnography has that type of law in their statutes where the board gets to approve the exam type. So the legislature has given us broad authority to determine what that's going to look like. Kind of went over delegated terms. Yeah, so basically like the same thing, 30 days, can't be more than 20 days. It can't be a cat if the law says it's a dog, things like that. The rulemaking process in a nutshell. So this is kind of a brief, we get the RAC together, which we've done, and usually how that starts, I'm trying to get too ahead of myself here. Purpose of the RAC. So what we did is we put out notice twice and said we need RAC members to serve on the RAC. We got an abundance of tattoo artists, the first time I've ever had that many apply, so congratulations to your group, good job. But we need public involvement, which is where Gary comes in. We got some school owners, facility owners, tried to get people from around the state. A couple of our people aren't showing up that are from around the state, but hopefully they'll log in eventually. And we just look for you to make recommendations, and those recommendations are taken to the board and the ABC to make terminations, and they can make changes. It's just a recommendation, so they can make changes to that information as we go. So when we do any kind of public meeting, whether it's a RAC or a board meeting, it's a public meeting. So we have to give notice, we have to give access to the public. So there's a public phone line right now where they can log in and listen. Access to disabilities people, same thing. If there's hearing impaired, those same exact happening with that. That's some behind the scenes for April. Everything's recorded and then put on the internet. And then official votes will be taken if necessary. One of the most important things that a Rules Advisory Committee has, and statutory or in law, is that you make recommendations on fiscal impact. So we're really looking at small business, the public. We can look at it very broadly, but those are kind of the big ticket items, like what kind of adverse effect would these rule changes have on small business. And usually I kind of preemptively went ahead and kind of made notes, and then we'll talk about it as we go through each of the rules. Statutes are a guidepost, so that's it's a green book, but it's not here, and so that's what we use to make rules. I think, any questions? Take it away.
I'm good.
Everyone's good?
I'm good.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm good.
What I'm doing here. Okay, so we'll start with the agenda, and everybody got everything I sent Friday, yes? And basically what I did is so what I do is I keep a file, after I've done rules, and then people start saying, oh, let's fix this, or oh, something's wrong with this, or this doesn't feel quite right, or can we look at this, we've had a problem with this, and this can come from the public, other staff, board members, whomever. So I keep a file, and in the file I have all these kind of little tweaks and changes. So what I do is go through the rules first, and kind of make the changes where I can, and then obviously look to you guys for more, like for example, under tattoo definition, I'll just print out the correct changes. Where does that happen? Let me pull that up on the screen. Okay. Did your guys' track changes come through on the PDF? Please tell me it did. I can already tell by their faces it did not. So this is what you should have received. Does what you have look like this? Nothing's coming up yet, Sam. Oh, I gotta share. Hold on.
I'm not seeing anything.
Hold on. I gotta share. How do I do that? Okay, here it is. Where's this? It says I'm sharing. Sorry, finding the document.
There it is.
Here it comes. So is this what you guys received in the email? Did it look like this?
Sadly, no.
That's right. Yeah, for some reason, when I PDF
That's not what I
something,
got either.
it doesn't show up the track changes. Why, I don't know. So we will just have this document up live, and you guys can kind of see, and I'll walk you through each change. Cynthia and I worked on this together, and she's here in the room with me. So this is just kind of things that have come up, working with other boards, other professions that we think work better or kind of hit all the marks where there may be things missing. But things like safety and sanitation, we would look at you guys more. Curriculum stuff in the, in guidelines for education, we'd be looking to you guys for more expertise in those areas. So we're not tattoo artists, we're people. Yes. Why are you showing me? Oh. It's going to jump right in. Your definition. Okay, so we're going to start with definitions. Does anyone have any questions so far? Just jump in with questions. And now, April, I can't see when they have questions from this screen. Is that right?
You'll see somebody's, their name will have a handout next to it.
I only see this on my screen. The big white. Hold on, technical error. Should I not have it this big? Is that the problem? I can't.
We'll just keep it on.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're sharing it.
Go ahead, try a hand raise and see if you can see it.
I don't think, yeah, go ahead and try. Oh, Dan just showed up.
Okay, very
He
good.
showed up in a little square for me.
Open, somebody else's has a hand up too.
Who's that? I only have David Pan.
So it'll,
Yeah, he popped up when his hand showed up.
okay.
We got it.
Yeah,
I'm not
so
very
raise
tech-
your hand down. Taking hand down now.
Perfect. Okay.
Great.
So what we've done is in cosmetology, which runs not completely the same but similar, is we, rather than having school or more broadly defining the types of places that could have educational institutions. So there are, like for cosmetology, Portland Community College has a school inside the correctional facility, and they're a community college. So by defining educational institution, we've kind of broadened the scope of who could be an educational institution. You know, there has been talk of having CTEC have, tattoo schools in there, or having a tattoo curriculum and in a correctional facility. Those things have come up. They haven't come to flourishing yet, but kind of want to be prepared for those things. And it has worked for cosmetology, so.
If you take your navigation box off, it'll get bigger for them to see.
Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we just defined the Higher Education Coordinating Commission, renumbered everything. We adjusted the official transcript definition. It just basically fits the educational institution requirement, and then doesn't reference practical exam because we don't have a practical exam that you guys have to show us before you apply. And that's it for definitions. And definitions, we can always go back. It's kind of just a template, and then if we find words that we need to define later, like we don't define a word we just use once. If we're going to define it, we'll just define it in the rule where it's used. If we find we use Higher Education Coordinating Commission several times, then we'll put it in the definition, just use that word. It shows love for that. Okay, so approved course of study. You'll notice that the first whole part is deleted because that was the previous curriculum. And then the next rule says, one, we've added when the curriculum that we've approved, the date. So the only curriculum that can be used when we add this in is the one that was approved on that date. And that's something that our legal counsel has requested and required us to do. We just haven't done it in the past.
Sammy, can I provide clarification in regards to why we needed to add that as well, the date?
Yeah.
So one of the things previously with the curriculum or course of study, it was a specific list of things that they had to add in regards to tattoo machines, needles and bars, safety, infection control, Oregon laws and rules. So if an individual gave us a curriculum or course of study that had the information, then...
Cynthia, you're still muted.
But they can hear me over there.
Okay, good.
You can all hear me, can you not?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, very good. So if an individual submitted a course of study that had those basic components, that criteria, then we did not have the teeth to deny that curriculum. And now, with this date of the actual board-approved curriculum, an individual will need to have all those content areas provided to the office for approval. So if you have ever seen, and you will see, and it is provided in your documentation, that course of study that gives the content areas and the sub-content areas, if you submit a curriculum to us, it has to have all those components. And this also allows the office to go back and review curriculums that have been submitted in the past that have not had all that content provided to us. And so we will be doing an audit of all the schools to ensure that they meet the current curriculum requirements. That way everybody is working off the same curriculum and everybody, all the students are learning the same thing. So just wanted to provide that clarification in regards to having that added and that date added. Does anyone have any questions about that?
No.
Okay, thanks.
So I guess the next question is, are there areas within, and these rules are just kind of what I have, but these are up for, all of them are up for debate. And that's kind of why you guys are here. So we can go rule by rule, and if you have areas you want to talk about, then this is the time.
Has there been any discussion, this is Kat, by the way, about the possible increase of required hours?
That's why we're here today.
So one of the things, Sam, if I may, so one of the things on the agenda, or excuse me, on the schedule that Sam has is we have on May 26th, a Tattoo Rules and Qualification Committee. And if you guys are interested in looking at that curriculum and modifying content, hours, structure, then that's something that we can dive in more in depth in regards to those specifics on that date. If that's something that this committee feels like needs to be looked at more thoroughly.
And or give us some direction now.
And that's the meeting on May 26th.
Yes, and or like Sam said, if you feel like this rack today says, for example, we need to, I just disconnected, I'm sorry. If you need to have, more hours in needles and bars, and everybody agrees as a recommendation without having to go into a full committee for the education, then that's something that we can do here as well.
I personally would be interested, but I would like to hear how Tama and Dan feel about that as well.
This is Tama. We have been trying to get certain subjects increased for quite a long time. The hours that pertain to each subject. I would definitely be willing to go through this piece by piece and see what we can add to it. It's kind of hard because it's not specific, it's only 20 hours, but I definitely think there's a few places where we could bump the hours up, for sure.
I think personally considerably considerably bump them up in certain categories.
I agree.
I would agree with that as well. This seems, well, it depends on what our ideas of the goals of the tattoo schools are. Certainly if our goal is that someone will come out of there with the basic requisite skills of a professional tattooer, in my opinion, the hours as they stand are not sufficient. If the schools are intended to create sort of a baseline practice so that people can work safely and really begin maybe with a mentor or something like that from that point forward, as it is in cosmetology or in beauty schools, I believe, or hair schools, then that would be a different situation.
And that's generally how it is. It's a minimum competency at a school level when they come out.
Yeah.
So.
Even then, I would say the hours are a little light on some things, especially.
They're very light. I mean, if you look at specifically for a barber, they require 750 hours minimum. So we're permanently marking someone's body, not just cutting their hair. Granted, you could do a lot of damage with a straight razor, but still, it's considerably light.
Do you guys have some specific areas where you think it's light or where it's okay? Kind of just giving us some ideas where we can start looking to? Or others?
Could you possibly roll down a little bit so we can see the full list
yes,
of what you have there? We can only see the safety and inspection right now.
Absolutely can. Maybe. Get back there. Okay. So, yeah, so yes. Here it is.
Yeah, great.
In my opinion, I think every single category could stand to be doubled. I also believe that we should put more hours into safety, infection, and control. Maybe 100 hours, maybe list some specific courses in there. I know that on the test, that was one of the areas where we had the lowest amount of completion. And that, in my opinion, is one of the areas that we really should be striving to make sure that we have the most education and the best competency at the end of the school.
I agree with all of that 100%.
I do as well. Skin, I believe, should be bumped up as well if we're taking into consideration depth control and aspects that actually lead into applying a tattoo safely.
I agree with that.
I would say coming in as the Joe public, as it were, but I do this with nurses, looking at needles and needle bars, safety infection control, design, art, and placement, more placement, I think, than anything else. Skin, Oregon laws and rules, I feel like those are all, I don't know why everything else is given as much emphasis as those seem like they should be the most important to deal with.
I'm here, hold 1 second. So I heard a couple different things. First I heard that you thought all of the hours should be doubled. So is that the, what is it, 210, so you would double all of those hours to 420? And then I heard make laws and rules 100, so are you saying possibly double and then also increase other areas even more?
So
I would say, yeah, as a baseline, doubling, and then certain areas being increased further than the double is what I got from you, Tama, and I would 100% agree.
And I agree with that, so that the overall hours would be more than double because of the additional strengthening of the hour requirements on certain areas.
So this is Corinthia, and what I want to say is in regards to just doubling hours, basically there has to be justification behind actually increasing those hours. So my recommendation is that we go to full committee on this, because what you need to do is you need to take the content areas and you have to evaluate your overall program, and you have to look at those specifics and determine how many out of your full hours need to be applied, and that gives you that equation for your hour requirement. So you're not just assigning a number. So my recommendation is, and it sounds like you all want to increase these hours, and so we would need to sit at the table and have this and go through each of those sub-content areas and come up with the reasoning and the support of the education to support the hours on the curriculum. So that's my recommendation without just picking hours.
Yeah, that seems logical to me. I think a lot of this really does bear discussion into some specifics.
Okay, so on May 26th, when we hold this qualification committee, do you guys want to recommend a group for this? Is that going to be you as the RAC members, or are there other individuals that you would like to have invited? How does that look to you?
I think that the RAC committee that we've established so far is great. I definitely think I could find 1 or 2 members that would be willing to volunteer their time and would have great input in helping us put this together, that have the hours and time and are willing to, put the work in to make it effective.
Okay, so what we can do is you can provide me the individuals' names, and we can invite them to that sub-RAC meeting for the qualification committee meeting. So if you provide, you have my email, don't you, Toma?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you
I
send,
can put together a list of some names and get it to you pretty quickly.
okay, and is there anybody else that would like additional individuals added to this meeting?
I myself could also come up with a couple people that would definitely be beneficial to this discussion.
I think it'll be important to ask the board on May 3rd as well. So we don't necessarily always ask for people, but actual position types. But we'll definitely bring it up to them when they approve the schedule.
Okay,
as well.
and then the other thing that we need to consider is to keep this committee at a manageable level. When you get a lot of people and a lot of personalities in the room, sometimes it's more difficult to get a lot of work done. And so, how many people are on this RAC or attending today?
I have.
That would be my area. I was it. We probably benefit us to keep it fairly smallish. For one, I'm quite comfortable with the people on the RAC.
6.
Kat, you and I have never met, but I know that the list of people that Tom is going to come up with is going to overlap with mine considerably. So I'm comfortable with Tom and Kat coming up with the list. But I would suggest we keep it as short as possible and still get, a diversity of voices.
So currently there's 6 on this RAC. If we have a couple of other individuals, that would increase it to 8. Is that a comfortable number for you?
We can decide all that.
I mean, I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, me too.
Realistically, when it comes down to it, Dan and Tama, both of you far exceed my experience, just me in general, and I can speak for my husband as well, that I will bring everything that he has to say to the table also, and he's pretty comparable to you experience-wise, Dan, so if it's okay, I'm okay with Tama coming up with a list, and then I just bringing in inputs from my husband, if that's okay.
Yes,
Fine
ma'am.
with me.
Okay,
All right.
fantastic.
So one of the things that I would like to request that you do before we get to the meeting on the 26th is in your packet is the actual curriculum, and it provides the specifics in regards to hours and content. And if you could come up with some recommendations before we get to that meeting in regards to the justifying content, and then how those hours apply to your overall program and what your recommendations would be before we get to that meeting.
That shouldn't be a problem. I should be able to put together some type of PDF to bring with examples and a couple other things before the meeting. I should be able to make it available before the meeting if that's necessary as well.
Yes, if you would like to send that to me, and that's something that I can then forward out to the RAC before we have the meeting, so they can look at other individuals' recommendations. And then if any of you would like to do that as well, then I can send that to the full rack so we can get an idea of what everybody's kind of considering.
Fantastic.
It sounds good. I would have that question. Is it allowed for RAC members to get together outside the context of these meetings in order to discuss some of this stuff?
No, that was the next thing I was going to say. Because you're a public body and all the public meetings notice, all those things apply, then no. You would need to go through Corinthia. You'll notice whenever we email the group, it's always blind copy. So send everything through Corinthia and then she'll compile everything for your meeting on the 26th.
That makes perfect sense.
Thanks.
That slide must have got skipped on my rack. I gotta put that in my notes. Okay. All right. So we good?
Yeah.
And then we can also talk about more of this information at that time as well. Do you want to go over this now?
Let's see here.
What else does this means for you?
I do have a question. I'm sorry. This is Kat.
Yeah.
On number 6, it says a person authorized by an educational institution. So at this point, it's a one-on-one instructor status. Is this saying that you can authorize other people
No.
as well?
So because it says educational institution and that's defined above, then it would be
Correct.
somebody who is authorized by those programs to teach.
Okay.
Let me give you an
authorized
example.
by the program and heck, like our licensing, our instructor licenses.
No, not necessarily.
I'm only asking for clarification because I have heard specifics from other people in other schools that have talked about like a apprenticeship program where you bring in an artist that's not necessarily affiliated with the school, but is authorized for the day to do teaching.
That can happen. Schools can do that. There are rules
Okay.
in heck around those types of things.
The reason this educational institution was added is, for example, when you have a tattoo school that is administered at the K through 12 level, for example, there are technical schools out there that, and they're getting really big throughout the state of Oregon, and so that at an educational K through 12 level, the teacher requirements are different than a licensed career school requirement through the Higher Education Coordinating Commission. So for example, HEC requires 2 years of experience in your field of practice, and the Department of Education requires a lot more education, training, experience specific to what the field of practice they're training for, in addition to just teacher requirements. So when we put educational institution in there, that covers both HEC and your K through 12 or your correctional facilities when you're teaching at a community college. So it just covers that in a whole.
I'm curious about the fact that you guys removed the tattoo artist part from this. Does that mean that somebody that's not a licensed tattooer can become a teacher in a tattoo school?
That's where my question, I think, was leading from that. Is that the way that it's written, it removes the tattoo artist personal instructor relationship, is what it sounds like.
Well, for HEC, they would have to be required to be licensed. I don't know about Portland Community College, at least requires their barbering instructor at the correctional institution be licensed. I don't know about high schools.
Yeah, they do.
I would
Yes,
guess Corinthians don't.
They do. They ensure that you have the appropriate license to teach under that field of practice. So what ODE would do is if HEC requires you have a minimum of 2 years, ODE would require that you have that minimum of 2 years, but they would also ensure that you have all of your other requirements for teaching individuals. So it's a higher level through the K through 12 and or college and community colleges and such. But they do ensure the minimums through HEC are met. So HEC requires that you have the 2 years. ODE requires you have the 2 years in addition to teaching education. Does that make sense?
I understand where you guys are coming from, but I think us as members would prefer that it states that you have to have some type, I guess you're saying 2 years of work in the industry or just experience in the industry, because it's not really coming through. Before it used to say a licensed statutory is registered. Now it's just saying a person authorized by an educational institution.
Well, I don't know why we can't do this.
Thank you. That's what I meant.
Yeah. It just makes it sound like we,
I don't know why you can't do that.
would hire someone specifically that has nursing training to do a skin class.
Yeah.
Instead of,
That's a good
like,
point.
I don't know.
No, I think that works. I don't know why that wouldn't work. We can set the requirement.
And when we're working through the K through 12s at that educational institution, if it specifies in rule that they have to have that license, then ODE would have to meet that requirement as well.
Yep.
So that's good. Good point.
Okay, thank you.
Really quick, may I make a suggestion on wording for that?
Yes, please.
I think it might be a little bit more clear.
Oh, there's lots
if
of
you-
musts.
If you say, if it reads, education and training for tattooing must be conducted by a licensed tattoo artist in Oregon who is authorized by an educational institution.
Oh. Okay, how's that?
You guys
License.
also mentioned that it was HECC's requirement that they have 2 years experience. Is there anywhere in our requirement that we can require more years of experience than 2 for someone to become a licensed educator?
Yes.
Oh, we can?
Yes, where?
I would definitely like to see that number increase, because I don't personally feel that someone that's been in the field for 2 years should be teaching somebody. It's not something that you have a complete grasp on at 2 years that you can be handing your training down.
You don't even have a complete grasp at 5 years.
I believe that in the past, HEC has asked us to put that in rule. We have not done that. And I think they have a blatant policy of 2 years. But I think we can require more years. But I will put that in my notes to look at before the 26th meeting.
Well, and their clarification on what is 2 years is interesting. It's just full-time, which is 35 hours a week for 50 weeks. But is that tattooing time specifically, or just being in a shop? There's a difference. So it needs to be reconfigured no matter how you look at it.
Correct. I asked Peter about this from the HECC one time, and he said it could be from the beginning of their apprenticeship. So their first day of school could be considered their day one, which
No.
I didn't.
No.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
No.
I'm
I
typing.
agree on that.
Yeah, one of the unfortunate side effects of having that time period be so short is that, and we're seeing this, I think, with the explosion of tattoo schools around the state, is that it can turn into a bit of a statewide pyramid scheme where once you graduate from tattoo school, if you're not able to find a gig tattooing, you can open a tattoo school in pretty short order. and on from there. And so we get this sort of over-proliferation of tattoo schools.
Okay. Okay, I'm back. I'm just making notes of it back. Okay, I think that's good, very good. But I'm pretty sure that they have asked me before, and we've just said, use the standard, but I think we can require it. I'm not positive, but I'm gonna double check.
Yeah, I definitely think that as a group, we agree that that needs to be higher than 2 years.
Agreed.
Okay.
Do you want to go up and talk about the additional?
Can we go back? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a couple other things on this list I would love to ask questions about, if that's okay.
Oh, yeah, please.
Could you scroll up again?
Yes.
There we go. Down. The one teacher to one student directly supervise the first 10 practical procedures. So as an educator in the sector, I see a lot of students, a lot of the students kind of congregate together, they're tattooing each other to get through the schools. And one of the things that I hear the most about the overcrowded schools is that they don't have enough teachers for the students and there's not enough supervision. It is the biggest complaint that we have received through the informal organization I'm part of and me as an owner of the school talking to other students. So I think it might be in our best interest to maybe bump the first 10, maybe 20 procedures they need, direct over-the-shoulder interaction from a teacher. That's just my opinion.
I think direct supervision also might, because it comes up in multiple areas, might also be something that goes in definitions as well.
Yeah, that's a good idea. It'd be a good idea to clarify exactly what that means.
That way there's no question for anyone.
Right, and I think there's a lot of leeway that's not in a positive way for the education of the students.
What is a no less than 30 days? What do they mean by that?
Do you have a definition in mind, or is it just a standard definition? There's lots that you could use. I mean, they've got ones where it's, right there with the person. I mean, body piercing, I think, has
We don't have direct supervision listed in,
no, but like respiratory there has.
oh, I can't control that.
Do you want direct supervision to be right there on the person watching? I'm
Yeah,
assuming that's what you want.
Someone said over-the-shoulder supervision, I like that term.
Yeah, one instructor to one student ratio over the shoulder in person.
Actively involved,
Actively.
not just sitting there thinking around on your phone.
Yeah, I again, show public outside the median, I would want the instructor to be looking at the needlework as it's happening.
Right.
And they wanted
From the
that.
inside, I agree.
And you wanted the 10 increased to 20, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, the more the better on that.
And those are all things we can go over in your meeting.
I just clarify in the curriculum this information here. So,
She just wants to be 20.
but that's what the committee is recommending, yeah.
Okay?
Do we, as a group at this point, want to talk about the minimum required procedures being 50? Is that something we would like to increase? Do we need to talk about that in the next meeting?
In the next meeting. And with the increase of the 20 practical procedures to be performed in no less than 30 days, do you want to increase that 30-day now that you've doubled the procedures? Do you want to do that 60 days?
Yes, please.
And then what are you going to do with the 40 down below?
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Change it to 30. That's why
I
we
suppose at this point it makes sense to change that to 30
Yes.
until the next meeting when we can decide if we want to increase the overall hours. Am I correct?
Yep, correct.
Okay. And then if you define direct supervision, do you want to define indirect, or is that obvious? Because indirect could be much different. Like could be in the same place, could be available by phone. And I have a lot of variations on that one. Do you have like a parameter?
I would say accessible on site.
Okay.
Yeah.
And immediately available.
Yeah, immediately available. Absolutely.
In person?
Is this an area where we could limit the amount of teacher to student interaction, at least for these procedures, when they're actually supposed to be supervising the students who are doing procedures on clients?
Yes, yes. No.
Give me some more, explain a little more. So do you mean,
Again,
like you want to go more than 1 to 4? Like 1 to 3?
So what I hear you saying is the 1-to-1 student-teacher ratio, that's it, you get 1-to-1, but you don't want any more students than like 4 being taught at the same time? Is that what you're?
Well, no, it sounds like no more than 4 students per teacher tattooing at the same time.
which I think honestly could be 2 students per teacher at a time. If the student is actually doing a procedure, I don't think that an instructor there's enough focus for them to be involved in 4 separate procedures at the same time and making sure that this is actually happening the way it's supposed to.
Oh, okay, hold on, let me grab something here. I think I have something that might work. Oh, actually, I can give it to you. No, yes. Hold on.
So you're just talking about the indirectly part, you want to change that 4 to just say 2?
No, I think it goes farther than that. I think that when they're actually tattooing, they want indirect can be doing lots of things, but when the actual tattoo procedure is happening, they want it to be only 2 to 1, something like that. Is that what I was hearing?
Correct, that's what I think.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me. Because if you have people tattooing and something goes sideways while in the tattoos, then that's 3 people who are going to have to stop what they're doing while the instructor deals with whatever has gone sideways. And that seems like a lot to juggle.
I'm wondering if
Agreed.
we can't still from body piercing. So they
Okay,
have,
first.
they have 300 practical operations. Yeah. So 300 practical operations, 100 practical operations in which the student observed and participated. No, that doesn't work. You could turn it around. Yeah, I think I see what you're saying. Never mind. Thought I had something I didn't.
We just want more direct supervision from the instructors when the students are doing procedures. That should be 1-to-1 or 1-to-2 max. At my school, we do 1-to-1 when the student's tattooing. That's just, we want to make sure that we're there and available because tattoos can go sideways really quickly. And it's just nice to have somebody there that can make sure, fix the problem.
And are you saying, let's say we have, right now it's all 50 procedures. Do you want 1-to-1 for all 50 procedures?
As much as I would love to see that in some ways, I do think that that's potentially excessive. I think the last handful of procedures, 1 to 2, I'm comfortable with that.
I am as well. By that point, they should be able to stand stand on their own 2 feet and accomplish some of the smaller problems they might be dealing with, but still need an instructor if, things should go south.
Right, or they should at least know when they're getting in over their heads so they can pause. And wait for
Correct.
the instructors available.
So then it sounds like what we would actually be doing is increasing the number of operations for direct supervision.
Yes.
To more than 20, possibly.
That would make sense to me, for sure.
Am I hearing that
In
right?
that sense, should we do half and half? Because my worry, don't get me wrong, like we only have 2 per instructor that are here happening anyways, but my worry is that when they complete the program and potentially move on to a shop, that they're gonna lean heavily on the people that are there to an extent that it should be more of a mentor program once they're in the shop. And they can't, I don't know, there's a level of confidence there as well. Like,
Yeah.
I like the 1 to 2 students, but I don't know if it should be,
I like the 1-to-1 for the first 20 procedures.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think that we should have a little more definition for the indirect supervision and
Yes.
limit the amount of structure, the amount of students that can be actively tattooing in regards to the teachers being on site. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Sorry. Oh, right. So would it be like, if you've got 4 students, you need 2 instructors?
Correct.
yes.
Oh, so it would still be, wait, go back.
And it's still
So during-
2-1.
2 students. 1 teacher. Okay, I think I can expand on it. Okay. Does those notes make any sense at all?
Yeah, I think we've got
Yes.
the point across.
Okay. And then I'll take this and massage the language and stuff, look at some other things that we have, and that, I think, I will be at the curriculum committee, so, is it a curriculum and rules committee or just curriculum? Can't remember.
No, it's going to be a qualification committee because I believe that you guys are probably going to want to look at the exam as well.
Oh, it's a rules and qualifications.
Yeah.
So I'll bring new language for you guys to look at.
Did you say we're going to be looking at the exam as well?
No, ouch, sorry, I just got a huge cramp. I believe that you guys may want to, we haven't come to that part on the agenda, so it's based on all the comments I've received that it's my understanding that you guys will probably want to. So it is a qualification committee, rules and qualification, which includes the curriculum and exam and then also rules. Is that correct, that you want to look at the exam?
100%. We would like to look at the exam. We've been trying to put together a list of resources to help that are available and meet the curriculum, so we'll keep putting that stuff together before the next meeting.
So based on what we're going to be working on, we're probably going to have to add an additional day for a qualification committee in there because the curriculum in itself is probably going to take us 1 day, and then we're going to be adding the rules on top of that. And if you guys want to go over the exam in its entirety, we should add another day.
I'm on board with that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, I would love to do that.
Let's see. Is there, do you guys want to shoot for a meeting in June, a meeting date in June? I think that'll still align with,
Let's bring it to them.
so we'll have some proposed dates for you at the May meeting for a future meeting in, say, June, July, okay?
What does the whole board have? Would it just be about exams?
Yes.
Because I could move forward with rules if exams are just the only thing we're talking about.
Is that okay with you guys? We'll just bring a list of proposed dates that we can meet.
That's perfect.
That's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm completely open and we'll make a meeting happen, so.
Okay.
The one thing I worry about, maybe it's not even a worry that's necessary, is if we don't have like a firm curriculum, do we want to even go down the exam path until that's in place? I don't know.
I think that we can work on the curriculum and the exam side by side. I don't see us having a problem making that work.
I would agree.
I would agree with that too, because a lot of people taking the exam aren't coming from tattoo schools, they're coming out of state, so curriculum and exams aren't necessarily need to be correlated exactly.
True. So if you guys get the curriculum, then I can still follow rules and you guys can keep working on the exam.
Exactly.
That way.
Mhm.
Perfect. Just getting myself out of the situation.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else in this area? No?
And this looks pretty good to me. I have to say, I'm really happy with how this is going. We're getting a lot done.
Oh, good. I'm glad. You never really know where we're going to go, but
It's really nice to make like direct headway in this aspect. I appreciate it a lot.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I do these kind of meetings up on the hill, and it's kind of like us all being on the same page and going through is kind of really clear pretty good in the meeting, so I'm really happy that it's happening.
I wasn't completely sure I could make changes and you guys see them live, but clearly you can, so I'm good with it. As long as you're okay with it.
It works great for me.
Okay. It's the way I like to do it, and I would do it if you were in the room that way on the big screen, but it works just the same here, so. Okay, so moving on to, so I put every rule in here. There was none left out, but sometimes there just isn't a change that needs to be made, so, or there's not a red or strike through, there's just not a change there, but it's something that we can look at if you see something that you want changed, a recommendation. This is just the tattoo license, what gives you the authority to perform them, how long it's good for, that it expires the last day of the month from the date of issuance, and then what the standards that you have to abide by. So just kind of setting the stage for who you are as a tattoo artist. So, and then say that again.
That all looks fine to me.
Okay. And then requirements for tattoo license. So this is basically how to get a license. So number one just kind of gives you all your standard. You have to fill out the application, pay the fee. The board has chosen that to require completed bloodborne pathogens, CPR and first aid. The law says you have to be 18. You have to have a high school diploma or equivalent. And then the G, the qualifications, are the areas where definitely everything goes under, the law, but we can try and massage things where needed.
I do have a question about this section.
Okay.
Did I hear you correctly that the high school diploma or equivalent is in the law and there's nothing to be done about that?
Yes. Yeah, I know. I hear that a lot.
Yeah. I asked because we've got people who have applied for licenses that are coming into and out of the country, or were educated out of the country, and the high school equivalency thing can be a real headache for someone who did their high school education outside the United States.
I can get Tina. Tina, are you listening? Hold on.
It was also a huge,
Tina, are you
mine for
listening?
students.
Do we have an option for like cosmetology with we do like non-credential? No.
Well, I asked Tina to join, but she must be away from her computer. But she could give us more information on how this works, as far as like detail, what we're looking for in the application. If they're from out of state, out of country, is there something equivalent? I don't know.
We just dealt with this problem. My first student is from Wales, and she was educated in Wales, and when she got her documentation from her school, she ended up having to pay a separate organization to authorize it. It took 7 weeks.
Yeah.
And so she had to wait for that paperwork for 7 weeks before she could get her license to start tattooing. It was very, very frustrating because there was no way around it.
Yeah, but there's a company, NACIS, that you have to go through for, I forgot about that. And we still use that same standard? Okay. Yeah, it would be a law change, so, and actually, we just had another group get a change, or ask for a change. Anyway, it's your equivalent, which is generally, I'm not really sure how do we define equivalent.
Does it say equivalent in there?
It does. Really
That would be the
Tina.
NACIS. That would be the NACIS. So what generally
I'm
happens?
here.
Oh, hi Tina.
Hi.
Tina's a licensing manager, and she, so they have questions about the high school diploma or equivalent. And what that means, what does equivalent mean? We kind of confirmed the out-of-country stuff goes through NACIS to have it, reconciled to make sure it's equivalent. But it's like GED, those types of things, I don't know.
Yeah, it has to be equivalent to the US. So that's why we have to send out of state or out of country to the other organizations to let us know whether or not they have to continue on to get a GED or if it is equivalent. So is that
GED is considered equivalent though, right?
correct?
Okay.
Correct.
I had a student a few years ago that didn't want us to commit to the third-party company because it was going to take longer than if they just took the GED and got a U.S. equivalent, which it was sad that they had to do it, but it took less time.
Yeah, and we do have individuals that do that. That go and get the GED instead of waiting to find out if it's equivalent or not. And sometimes it is faster, I agree.
Okay.
Anybody have any other questions? No.
Okay.
I'll stay on, Sam. I'm just going to mute.
Thanks, Tina.
You're welcome.
And then, okay, so moving on. So I graduate from Oregon Licensed Career School, which that would probably be changed. Would that be? We have to add another pathway for educational institution or change that to educational institution.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
Let me make a note here. You think you see everything and then you miss all these things. Okay. And then the pass an office approved written exam, was just standard language that all the boards changed to. Any questions on pathway 2?
Not pathway 2, but the application, pass the exam within 2 years of date of application. Is there any way to make that within 2 years of their transcripts being sent in, at the very least? I feel like if you don't tattoo within 2, or if you're not tattooing for 2 years and you go try and take your test, that's just a lot.
Well, the problem is that it's a fee for service, right? So if they apply, that's when that the right question?
Well, and here's the other thing, if your transcript is sent in 2000 and the individual doesn't want to come into the office until 2009, that person can still use that transcript 9 years later.
That's what I'm saying. Can it be that it has to be used within 2 years of the transcript being sent in?
Transcripts expire after 2 years. Hold on.
We have a 2-year practical. When there's a practical involved, that practical is only 2 years.
Only when the practical is involved.
But,
I mean, Tama and Dan, both of you, like, I require practical before I'll send in the transcript.
They don't.
Is there a way to make that?
Right.
no, they don't.
Here.
Yeah, as far as we know, transcripts don't expire. It would be like having to go back to high school.
They have a 10-year mark. ODE requires a 10-year mark in regards to evaluation of where they're at. There's something in ODE rules with a 10-year mark. I'd have to look up that language, but that's 10 years.
I mean, I can make a note of it, but I don't think it's something that we can change. But I'll make a note.
It makes sense the way that the HECC runs too, that you completed the school, you have the education, they're gonna let you take the exam.
Yeah, it's just if someone takes 2 years off from tattooing, like, before they go get licensed, that's just...
I completely get where you're coming from, I just don't think that this is the place where we can address it, unfortunately.
Can I get licensed and not tattoo?
It was worth a try.
All right, any questions on reciprocity? Not a lot we can do here. We've pretty much specified what we can and left it as open-ended as we can.
Yeah, I like the include but is not limited to, because that's been a real sticking point in the past for folks.
Possibly the best verbiage in all sets of rules on the planet. Potentially.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you guys are going to work on the exam stuff, so that comes down later. Temporary license. This is pretty much status quo. This is how we've worked several years over this and made several attempts to change. This is what seems to work with Tina, to get people in on a limited basis, mostly to do, guest spots, do the shows, get them in. They have to go through an inspection at the show, have to do bloodborne pathogens, and there is an inspector on site at all times. Yeah. So, yeah.
My experience having gone through this process a couple of times with guest artists is that it works pretty well.
Okay.
I'm pretty happy with things as they are, especially now that we can do the applications via email. That made a huge difference. So
Yeah.
Tina, thank you for that.
It did take several years to perfect this rule. Long time, that's for sure. So
Yeah,
good.
this one works really well for me.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm just going to go right past the application requirements because nothing changed. Here's general exam stuff, which is it's just kind of status quo from when you come in here and take a written test. These are the things that we require.
I did have a question in this section.
Okay.
And that was about the examination administered in English. We've already been through the impossibility of offering tests in other languages, but is having a translator on brought in possible? I don't remember where we came from on that. We talked about it a couple years ago.
This is another thing that we get a lot of requests about, if there's any help for people that English is a second language with the exam, because I know we've had a couple people come through that could not get licensed because they could not pass the exam. So,
What's that process?
I was under the impression that there could be a translator, but it had to be agreed upon through health licensing and the person taking the test.
What was that question? I'm sorry? Or statement, Toma? Or is
We're
that?
just trying to figure out if it's okay to bring a translator in for the test. We've talked at length at a couple different meetings about getting the test into different languages and how it's pretty much an impossibility. And so we're asking, what is the stance at this point on having a translator? Because I know in my personal experience, we've had some people come through that got guest licenses and were trying to get licensed here in town, and English being their second language, they really struggled with the exam, and we don't really have any pathways for them.
Yeah, and I would say that this is my first meeting. I would love a little more explanation. English is the only way you can take this test.
So currently,
Right, as of right now, that's correct.
so in order for the health licensing office to be mandated to provide examination in other languages, we have to have federal funding, and we also have to, the geographics of the applicants have to meet a minimum standard in order for us to be required to provide that in another language. For example, nail technology, the licensee base, it meets a certain percentage, and so then we're required to provide that examination in other languages such as Vietnamese and Spanish. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense to me, and it's going to be a long time before tattooing, as it is in Oregon, is going to meet any of those thresholds to trigger second language test generation. Sadly.
There are things that the health licensing office is doing with other programs that I will meet with Tina and the other management team about how we're moving forward with tattoo and the other tattoo, electrology, body piercing. And then at the May 26th meet. Yes?
Sorry, this is Toma. I have notes from my last meeting that say, we talked about this and you guys said that there was a possibility we would get 30 extra minutes for test takers who English was a second language, because that's something you offer through one of your cosmetology programs. But again, it's left open-ended. We didn't ever get a finished statement about that.
That would come probably during your examination committee, because that's not in the rule.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I believe that's by policy for cosmetology, and it's something that we could also do for tattoo, and we'll have to look into that. Let's talk about it at our qualification meeting for the exam.
That's the plan. Okay. Okay, anything else here? And then usually what happens is these types of questions trigger more questions when we get off, when we go to review this together. So then we'll have more things to provide you at the next meeting. Because one question triggers another question, triggers another question.
Such is life.
Right. Okay, and then
It's just so nice to be able to ask questions and talk through these things.
yes,
Better than sitting through the meeting and waiting till the end.
I know. It's
Agreed.
But, and I guess this is a good example of why, if we were having audience members here today, wanting to talk, you know what I mean, come in and interject, it'd be very difficult to try to have the conversation that we're having and getting all these things, lined out, what we want to change, things we need to review. This is a good example of why public comment is public comment. And we're doing the work. And then, of course, there's time for public comment later, but let us do the work, and then once we get it all refined, everybody can comment then. So this is kind of a good example of why that looks like that. It's frustrating and annoying, but this is a good example of why it works that way.
Absolutely.
Okay, so written examination, retake requirements, I think this is all the same. Is this,
I didn't have any problems with any of this, for sure. It seemed
want this to mirror cosmetology with the new additional training?
They don't do additional training, they don't do it until after their third time, and they have to take 100 hours at
Okay, you could change this like cosmetologies where they can take the hours or
Yeah.
take the Heather. You got something that you're interested in.
But 100 hours, it says 100 hours of instruction. This is different than cause.
Oh, I
Cause
see what you're
is just a short hour review, 2-hour review.
This is actually.
But instruction's not defined, focused, theory.
Focused on actual curriculum.
I'll write a note down and
No,
look
it's
at
just
that.
instruction and
Sam.
theory. It's the same thing, just worded differently.
Yeah, I mean, that,
So let's just run through this real quick. So what we've done, and you may have had students that have done this, if you fail, is it 3 times now? 3 times, you can either go back to, this is for cosmetology, either go back to school and get additional training on whatever wherever you failed, or you can come here to HLO and we have a person, exam qualification specialist, something like that, that goes through like a whole study layout on how to study for the test, areas where you need more work, and our percentage of pass rates is like in the 90s, and this has been going on for almost 2 years. So this is something we could consider for you guys, if that's something that you basically just give them the either or. They can take the additional 100 hours, or they can do the additional training. But we didn't have a specific number of hours.
It was after 3, it wasn't after the.
Does that make any sense at all?
I personally, I know that there are students that if they have failed, I know they can schedule with Heather
they have.
for that. But I don't know, I lean pretty heavily towards if you fail after 3 attempts, that you should come back
Okay.
and sit with us, but that's just me. How does everyone else feel?
And this is different. I should have said this than cosmetology. Cosmetology never had the exact number of hours of instruction. So you guys definitely do have it differently. And if that's important, then you would probably want to leave it the same.
I do think that making Heather's services available for people who struggle with tests might be a good option for us to have, because sometimes it's not necessarily the instruction that's received, but some people just struggle with test taking. And
Yeah, that's anxiety.
yeah,
Maybe we could look at that language
such a
and bring
good
it to
percentage of
and
being
see.
able to help people get through these tests. I absolutely think it should be offered to the tattooers as well as cosmetology students.
Get the additional training.
We've had them come in like after
I
the
agree with
second
that.
ask to sit with Heather.
Having the option for Heather to people also helps for folks that have not gone through tattoo schools and are coming in from out of state. But they are not going to have an existing relationship with tattoo schools, so having to get extra instruction for them is going to be hard because they're going to be starting from scratch.
Hold on, I gotta make some notes here.
I don't think, we need to look at that. If it's not them, then we can do that. Will you make a note for me to see the pass bill? Right?
I got full month.
I apologize, I was already under the impression that that was available.
I think it is upon request.
Okay,
We need to like have a breakaway for a minute and kind of find a couple things out. Does anyone care if we take like a 15-minute break?
oh no, I have to use restrooms, that'd be perfect.
Okay, let me get with Tina in 15 minutes and we'll meet back here at 11:45.
All right.
Do you have an estimate on what time that meeting will end? Just curious.
Since we have an additional meeting on the 26th, I would love to get through safety and sanitation. I think we can do it by 1:30.
Perfect. Awesome. We'll see you in 15 minutes.
Okay.
Bye.
Hi, everyone. We're back.
Hello again.
Okay. So. Okay. So I think, so we checked with Heather and she does offer it to people who failed the test on the second attempt. She does offer the, what do they call it? Study assistance review. So,
And does she reach out to those people, or what's the
Yes.
method of communication there?
yes, if she gets an applicant, I think she gets all of them that have failed twice. She gets the application and she calls them.
Okay.
There hasn't been very many, but that's
Is
the
there writing a policy on it?
No.
Writing a policy in the rule?
Okay, now to renewal requirements, I don't know, I think these are pretty standard. I don't think there's anything you want to change. Still have the CPR, first aid, bloodborne pathogens, continuing education. Does all that look accurate?
Yes.
That looked good to me.
Now down to continuing education requirements. So I know, so I moved down to page 10, and what you guys received, I think, was all the new stuff. So this is the new stuff with all the old stuff struck out. So what we've talked about in the past, because this has come up a lot, is that rather than saying you have to go to a provider that's this, and this, we're saying you need to learn these types of things. And as long as you're learning these things, then your continuing education is fine. Rather than saying you have to go to a hospital or to a HEC required school and all of these things, rather than what and where, it's actually, no, rather than where and who, it's what you're learning. So what I did is just took basically all the education bullets above in your curriculum and just list them out here. This can go deeper, it can be less, but this is kind of just a general idea for a tattoo artist to know, okay, these are the types of course I need to get for my CEs that fall in these types of categories.
That sounds like a big improvement to me.
Okay,
I agree.
this has been the plan. Do you like it being this vague? I mean, it
To
could
me, vague is good.
Okay.
Continuing education hours have been a real struggle for all of us the
Yes.
entire time. And so, and I feel like the vaguer the language is, the better the compliance is going to be.
Yeah, and this still gives them some direction. Because
Yeah,
before it was
all of
like,
us want to learn about this stuff, we really do, but having a lot of restrictions on how we go about doing that is frustrating.
yes,
So
so
it
this,
makes it more difficult.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with this, is there specification on if it can be online, or just so many need to be in person, all that jazz?
hold on, I'm reading what I wrote. No, I did not,
Yeah, and
I don't,
just one more thing, I also wanted to know what is the audit process for periodic audits for this?
10%.
it's 10% when we do an audit. So the next rule kind of lines out what, if you get audited, the types of things you're going to be looking for, course of study, an online certificate, those types of things, and then the amount of time that you have to apply. We haven't done an audit for quite some time, but it could happen. And so then we have to keep the documentation for a certain amount of time. But no, it does not look like I limited it to in-person hours at all.
Okay. Personally, I like that, but that's just me.
And I like that too. Especially right now, in-person stuff is not available anyway, so there
Right.
would have to be some sort of exception provision for our current predicament.
And there
Or
is.
something. Yeah, I saw that and I thought that worked really well, and I was thinking, boy, wouldn't it be nice if we could just make this permanent? Because there is a lot available online that under the old rules wouldn't qualify, and a lot of it is quite valuable.
Are you taking the carryover out?
Absolutely. There's a lot of really great online courses that teach all kinds of aspects of tattooing that would be great to bring into just your repertoire and teaching alone. Secondary education.
So the only thing you might think about, and I didn't add it in, is that currently you allow 5 hours of self-study, and I did not make an allowance for that.
I mean, realistically, self-study, all 10 hours are self-study. It's just whether it's in person or online. So if I take a course online, personally, I view that as self-study.
Yeah, I don't think we need the self-study hours because it'll be far easier for
Okay.
us to comply with them, with these new regulations.
Agreed.
Hands down.
Okay. That works for me, and this is the same stuff I had for cosmetology when they were going to have hours, but they didn't follow through with it. So I think this will be okay by our CD guru. But if there's any changes, I'll bring them to the 26th meeting.
Item 5 there.
Sorry.
The research, authorship, and teaching does not count towards continuing ed. That was a source of frustration for me in the past, having taught courses through PCC for continuing ed, and then also having to scramble around to find my own credits was crazy. But having the language quite a bit more vague about what does not qualify, it helps that a lot. So,
Okay.
Because that was a really big disincentive for me, honestly, to offer courses. Because if you put in 40 hours creating a course and then a handful of hours teaching it, I can tell you the pay at PCC is rather low. With any financial incentive, and then on top of that to then have a bunch of stuff that I wanted to do not qualify.
Yeah.
It was just a mess, and so it became not worth it. And so I think that having the language the way that it is now creates a lot more opportunities for people to take stuff independently and learn valuable information, but also incentivizes those of us who want to teach some stuff to do so and offer those courses.
Yes, I agree.
Absolutely. You could put the machine parts you've taught for years online and people could take it. That would be so nice.
On number 10, it doesn't specify how many hours can be carried forward.
None. Cannot be carried forward.
Can't be carried forward.
Oh, cannot be carried forward. So I read that entirely wrong. Apologies.
I'm a word skipper all the time. Okay. Well, I'm glad you guys like this. It's much cleaner, and I think it will make it easier for licensees, and I think it will make it easier for the office, and just to be able to say, if you want to do client services courses, have at her. That's, it's up to you to decide where you need your education continued at, and we shouldn't really be saying where, because that's just very limiting.
I agree. Another quick question, is there there probably is, and I may have forgotten about it or didn't know, there's a sort of standardized method for establishing those credits. Like, is there a form?
Yeah.
Website?
Is it on the website? There is a form. I can't remember if it's on the website, but I will make a note to have it. Nothing to this.
Because I know there is one on the website for the self-study.
Right.
And if you're taking the self-study credits out of the rules, then that's going to be confusing for people. So. Yeah, you just use basically that same form for all CEs.
She has something. I'm just not positive it's on the web, but I will have it ready for you guys next time.
Yeah. And now, will this obviate the need to do pre-approval?
Yeah, you don't have to do pre-approval now. It's a choice, but this would definitely limit, or would definitely not give you less reasons to need it to be pre-approved.
Great. Okay.
For sure.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. Any other questions in that area?
Hearing none?
No.
Okay, here's the audit section, and this is standard boilerplate language for all of HLO boards and councils and programs. So it says that if we do an audit, you'll have 30 days to respond, and then the types of information must include mainly the CE person, the course agenda, things like that you need to have available. So this kind of gives you a preemptive, guide of what you need to have before you take the test.
Great.
Or before you take
Yeah,
the course.
this cleared a lot of that. I mean, actually remembering that this is there sort of makes that form a little less critical, I would say. My one question about this is the course agenda and course outline, do those need to originate at the institution that's offering the credits, or can that be created by the licensee?
It's a good question. I think it would depend. Some of these questions might be good for Callie. So if you did an online class that didn't have like interaction involved, where you just get online and do a PowerPoint, read through it, and take some kind of exam, is that what you mean? And then you guys would just notate down what who the course provider is and all that kind of stuff?
Exactly. Or even there's a lot of live ones also that happen, and tattoo people being what they can be. There's no course outline.
I think
like they have not done this as part of their preparatory thing. So to get them to produce something like that is going to be a headache.
I know that. Sorry, go ahead.
My preference would be that there was, we don't need to necessarily make this part of the language here, but if it was accepted that, essentially a report on the content of that course by the licensee would suffice.
So almost like the self-study sheet.
Exactly. Because requiring those things to be originated at the source of the credits is going to reintroduce a lot of those difficulties that we had with the system as it was before. Because, everybody around the world is putting together various things that we can use, but very few of them are going to have created materials according to these guidelines, that we'd be able to present.
Okay. I will look into that further, but I think it's a good point, especially when we're, making them more flexible, saying you can do all of this, but then when we're also saying, but here's what you need to show us, saying you did do that, we need to be possibly more specific or more vague. I don't know. I don't know what Callie would be looking for exactly. But I think it's a good question.
Yeah, and that may just be a matter of precedent rather than actual language and rules.
And I think her form talks about some of that stuff. Like I think, like you're talking about a tattoo artist who's teaching, I don't know, an art class, and they have a bio on their website. That would probably suffice for something here about the resume of the provider. Well, I don't see it here right now, but I thought there was something that says like, no, it's not there. Never mind, I didn't count.
Yeah, no worries. But also the documentation and substantiating the completion of the course.
Like it might not be a certificate.
Provided by the office. Okay. I see that there now. That makes sense.
Okay. I wonder if, Okay. Okay, moving right along. We're to tattoo practice standards and prohibitions. So I have, give me 1 second here. You're saying, I have questions. I had to. Okay. So, and Cynthia, you can fill some of this in for me, I think. There have been a lot of questions related to tattoo machines and them being rotary versus, what's the other kind, Cynthia? Coil, thank you. And can they be, both be completely broken down, can they not? Should some not be used? Should, so kind of need some feedback from you guys on that, and do the rules already cover those things? So just kind of your feedback on those areas.
Many questions.
Okay, I figured.
That. The pen style machines are questionable because the removable grip, should it be sterilized or just disinfected? It's a question that would come to mind.
Pen style machine. You mean like a regular ink pen?
Like a rotary tattoo machine?
Yes.
It's more like a pen style machine versus the coil machine?
You know,
We're not adding grips to it or tubes to it.
one of the problems with this discussion is that we don't have there's not a standard vocabulary for the different types of machines. At this point, there's a lot around, and that's a new thing. I mean, just in the last 5 years, we've gotten a bunch of new sort of systems put into place that are in wide use that didn't exist before. My preference would be that the rules here don't have a lot of limitations about what type of machine is used.
Okay.
Just because any machine, no matter what kind it is, can be used unsafely.
Right.
For sure. And so, you know, in some machines you need to pay a little bit more attention to certain things than others to make sure that they can operate safely. But I'm pretty confident that of what I've seen that's available, generally speaking, all the machine types that I know that are in really wide use can be used safely. They can also be used unsafely, but I'm not sure that. I think some general guidelines about cross-contamination and disinfection, which pretty much exists here already.
Right.
I think that they cover about what needs to be covered. I think if we get into naming specific types of machines that can and can't be used, you're going to run into trouble as these things change, which they will do very quickly.
Yes.
Well, technology changes on it daily.
Welcome to my advanced aesthetics nightmare.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree with Dan. We should keep it vague here. If these are things that we want to break down into, I think we could even try to spend some time when we're mapping out the curriculum, making sure that we're talking about these things in length in the machine section so that the cross-contamination issues can be met.
Yes.
And this language about ensuring grips, handles, and clipboards are covered during your tattoo service is great.
Okay. We kind of cleaned
Because
some of that
there are
out.
machines that where in the parlance that tattooers use, the grip is not disposable, but it's something you cover and protect, and you have to do it a certain way for it to work properly, but it can be done. So I think the language as it stands here is pretty good.
Okay.
It's the grips.
I do have a question that was brought up to me about ink, dyes, or pigments being purchased from a commercial supplier or manufacturer. So many people are buying ink off of, for example, Amazon, being a third-party provider. I heavily disagree with this aspect, and I'm just curious on everyone's thoughts of how, if that should be worded in there.
It's an excellent point.
Yeah.
I had not considered that.
Which one are you guys on?
It's right under 915-0065, task and practices, standards and prohibitions. It's on page 12 for us, but page numbers have been slightly askew from yours. It's right under the title. I think you need to go up.
Oh,
still. Up one more section.
One more section.
Oh.
There you go. Yeah, I'm wondering if we should put that third-party providers aren't an approved way. I don't know.
I think that that's pretty wise, honestly, because there is a lot happening on Amazon.
Yeah.
That is really bad. So,
I don't know that we have statutory authority to do that. Just because limiting where you can purchase things is, we don't deal in the retail aspect of things. Like we've talked about this, like jewelry stuff. I mean, I could make a note of it and check with our legal counsel and see what she thinks and if it's possible.
I think if we were obeying the letter of the law as the rule is written right now, then Amazon, not being a commercial supplier nor a manufacturer.
But how are we defining commercial supplier?
Personally, I mean, I don't know.
You see where all these, one question leads to a new question.
It's frustrating because it personally for me, like that shouldn't even be an option. If you can't order it from a specific supplier, then you shouldn't order it. It's just me. But
Find a supplier, you know. I mean, we can if we accept that the supplier means that their primary business activity is furnishing tattoo supplies, then that language applies. But you know.
But wouldn't that alleviate companies like Coalition, the in-town store, because they're a third party?
technically,
We don't want to do that.
No, I think that,
You know?
but it is still their primary business is supplying providing tattoo supplies. You know, Amazon's primary business is not providing tattoo supplies, it's all kinds of stuff.
I don't know. I think it comes down to the curriculum again. I think people need to understand that like you shouldn't do this. The problem that I have run into is students' support systems can't order supplies from a commercial supplier without a license, obviously, which is great, but their parents or friends or whatever just order them stuff off Amazon, and then it comes in and it's just like, what? Where did you get this? And then, having to have that conversation, which I'm fine with, but they're not usually comfortable going to their support system and going, this is wrong,
I mean, I generally, when my students, it comes time for them to acquire supplies, we go over this as part of their education. I take them to the studios, explain why they're not allowed to purchase their own things and purchase them for them so that they can do their procedures.
I agree with that. I just have had a lot of students come in, can't really say a lot, it's literally 2 students where their parents bought them whatever and they bought it off Amazon, and I have to explain why that can't be used here. That doesn't mean they're not going to use it out in the world.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, it's a tough one.
Yeah. Retail sales always is.
The one thing I was going to add is that Europe is literally going through the same conversation with inks and purities and what you can and can't buy from. So it's one of the reasons I wanted to come on this committee, that Europe is also being like, yeah, we don't really know what to do here and what's official and what isn't.
Unfortunately, the U.S. is going through the same thing. It's just not quite as publicized quite yet because it hasn't actually been a ban situation.
Yeah, people is getting towards that of like what do we and do we not allow, and we have to start looking at shops and receipts to making sure that they're getting stuff from only salary hires.
I'm pretty sure that's never gonna fly in a rule.
Yeah,
No way.
No matter what the language is, it's going to be next to impossible to enforce.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. I think that's the big thing here when it comes to like wording of like, if it's not enforceable, what do we do?
We don't do anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I mean, there's always the opposite side. So if you can't write it in rule, we also rely heavily on complaints. You know, if you get a complaint and it was on a tattoo, which we get very, very, very few tattoo complaints, especially for services. And there's an infection, so we could go down that path as far as, you know, investigating, subpoenaing records, what kind of dice we're using, all this types of stuff. So there is always that option. Without being so specific in a rule, there's precedent when it comes to complaints and civil penalty cases. We just don't have
I mean,
it.
I agree with Dan. Like the way that it's written for us, the ones that actually, you know, want to use the correct products and supply our own equipment, it's written perfectly as it is. It's just, yeah. It's just
Would there be a way to insert just a little bit of language that would limit it somewhat, you know, or maybe put commercial supplier in the definitions?
I don't know. Let me see. I made some notes, so let me see what I can do.
Yeah,
Don't have an answer.
understandable. Neither do we.
Okay.
Exactly.
But that's why we're here, is to try to, you know, flush this kind of stuff out. But I mean, there's always that we don't write rules for people to do it right. We do it for people that do it wrong. And so this, you're saying this is written for those two of us who are doing it right, but, you know, I don't know. And we hope that there's complaints, but there's not always. For tattooing, piercing, have very few complaints. Very few. Okay. I know. I always have been as well. Anything else under tattoo practice standards and prohibitions? I did add in that you can't tattoo on the eyeball.
Fine with me.
I'm okay with
I don't
that.
know where it came from, because I had a note.
Yeah, well, I mean, and normally I try to have a very open mind about the things people want to do with tattooing, but the eyeball thing is technically not tattooing as we understand it. It's more of an injection situation. So, but since people use that term tattooing, I think it's smart to have it in here. I don't think you're stepping on anybody's toes, because technically it's not really tattooing. But in case somebody, you know, in theory, I suppose some people claim that it can be done safely, but not using anything having to do with tattooing. So so I think what I'm trying to say is the language is good. I support that being there, and I'm happy it's there.
Okay, great.
I did have one other thing in this section.
Okay.
In section 4B, use a clean absorbent material or bandage intended to cover wounds. There's a burn dressing that's in common usage these days. It goes by the trade names of Tegaderm or Sanoderm, and technically it's not absorbent. So it might, but it works great and it is in real common usage. So if there was some language in here to make that legal, that would be great.
Is the bandage intended to cover a wound to prevent spread of blood-borne pathogens? It can be use a clean and
Okay, yes. Okay, they would fall under that.
Okay.
You're right.
I
That's
think-
fine. Ethel.
I have a question about this as well. Oh, go ahead, Dan, if you're not finished.
Well, I was going to move on to 5, right below there, and on my copy it looks like a typo, the A positions.
Yes, it would be a typo.
So position should be singular instead of plural there.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, that was all that I had.
we have received some questions this last month regarding people that are pregnant or breastfeeding, and we couldn't find any information in the laws at all regarding this. Do you guys have any clarification? Is that something we should address here?
It used to be in rule prior to 2012, but we removed it because it's choice. And
Okay.
Yeah,
I
I was
believe
around.
there's,
Go ahead.
I believe there's still a question on the text regarding it, is why. Because we had somebody come back and we were trying to help them find that information, we couldn't find anything. But it being an old rule might make sense.
So
It used to be in the rules, not the choice. Okay.
I had someone come back with that same question from the test regarding that, however the question is worded is actually, you're not even supposed to see the pregnant person as part of the question, that's not what the question's asking you. They're asking you if something else is the problem, but trying to trick you with the pregnant person aspect of it. I mean, I feel like we'll get to that when we go over the exam, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's just make a note and figure that out. That'd be great.
Okay, notes made. Kind of in a weird location, but here it is. Okay. Is everybody okay? And you know, B has been, 4B. 4 in general has always been a questionable rule. We've written it over and over and hundreds of times. But I think this gets us as close as we can get to basically saying, you know, because anyway, yeah, I think this gets you as close as we can get as far as making sure that you're just not cross-contaminating your open tattoo around people, so allowing you some flexibility to use the type of product that you want.
Yeah, I think that this works pretty well, now that I've revisited it.
Okay. General standards for practice. So we did a little bit of this and we went back up because I, of course, went too fast. Do you want to just kind of look at these individually? Or we can just go and tell me if they're good? What do you want to talk about?
The only one that I saw that I thought might be fair discussion is number 7, the last one. Between service area.
I agree. This is one I have in my notes as well. And then there's a body piercing one that's in there as well.
Yes, I think I found the body person one.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about it. You don't want a barrier?
Well, I think that 5-foot distance or a barrier, even if it's not an event facility license.
Should we bump that for the pandemic? Because 6 feet seems to be the standard. Should we bump that to 6 regardless?
No, because I don't think we're gonna need 6 feet forever. And these
True.
things have been around for a long time and they're hard to make changes to.
That's true.
So a non-porous barrier or 5 feet, is that what you're saying, whether it's an event or not?
Correct. That's what I'm comfortable with, if everyone agrees with me.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
Absolutely agree.
Okay, that's easy enough. And this is standards for tattooing setup and all of that. I think this is standard.
Yeah, that was pretty good to me.
Yeah, I didn't have any notes on it.
And then sterilization.
Also no notes for me.
I do have a question, and this came from Bob, who's our regulatory manager. Does autoclave, whether it be a Statum or whatever, do they still go through the give me the words, what are the words out?
Filters on it.
The monitoring system, biological monitoring, do they still do that once a month for those as well?
Yes.
I hope so, because
Okay.
we're still running ours.
Yes, perfect. I thought it worked the same, and he just wanted me to clarify, so, good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And the one question I would have is that it appears here that an ultrasonic unit is required, which is new. Am I right about that?
No.
It's been on there for at least the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm aging myself. So it's no longer the case that a non-ultrasonic enzyme solution.
Oh,
You gotta use both.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, that's fine with me. I just wanted to clarify. We've got one. That was not a problem. So that becomes the ultrasonic is required equipment along with the autoclave. If you're
Yes.
using reusable tools. Okay, that's fine.
Okay. I'm just moving on down then. Tell me when to stop. Client records.
I don't think I had, actually that's not true, is it a HIPAA violation? I had this question posed to me to ask of medical history from clients.
No, tattooing and tattoo licensees don't fall under the requirements.
Okay.
So no.
Yeah, and I think it would be a HIPAA violation if we went to a customer's doctor and asked for
Yes.
information and they gave it to us.
Correct.
That would be a violation on the part of the doctor, not on our angle. We're free to ask, we're just not allowed to get it.
And there was some, hold on, I'm trying to, what am I looking for here? Informed consent. Everybody had- Yeah. No, yeah, I think this is pretty straightforward. I added electronically, meaning you could give the licensee must obtain signature, that they understand the following information, and verbally and in writing, but I said that you could do the in writing and electronically.
Yep, I think that's great.
Email away.
I just got very excited about that. Sorry. Thank you for that one.
You're welcome. I may have gotten it from you, I don't know. So other than that, I don't have any base ticket items. Of course, we're gonna meet again, so I'm gonna go back through, find out questions to the answers that you guys have asked, from some of this language. If you go through it again and see that there's other things that you have questions about, or you're not sure, or you have this question, shoot me an email, and I can get as much work as I can done before the meeting is always best. And I can ask you, clarifying questions, things like that.
Great.
I had a question about the complaints. You guys said that you guys don't receive very many complaints at all in the tattoo or piercing side of the industry. And I'm just curious if there is, what does filing a complaint look like exactly? And what are the different things that you can file a complaint for?
You can file a complaint about anything.
Okay.
This is Nathan, and I was in regulatory, I'm our IT guy now, but one of the biggest complaints we get in that is unlicensed tattoo artists is probably one of the biggest, so, I mean, I don't think that necessarily reflects poorly on the...
Participant is now exiting.
Doesn't reflect poorly on the industry, it's just, it happens in all of them, but that's probably our biggest complaint in body art.
Okay.
Not a lot of
And
service
then-
complaints.
What?
Service.
I'm just curious because we, as an organization, have gotten a couple complaints regarding sexual harassment, and we were curious if we could refer them to you guys and what sort of action would happen if they got a complaint like that down there.
Generally,
You guys got that-
Generally, what we do when we get those is if it looks like it's going to be a criminal investigation of some kind, and even with this tattooing without a license, we'll turn that over to law enforcement first and let them deal with it. I mean, we've had a few of those in the past, and generally, they might fall under unprofessional conduct, but sometimes the proof of those is hard. It's a he said, she said. So we're not really able, a lot of times, to take action on those because a lot of times there's no definitive proof.
But definitely a complaint can be made.
Unknown participant is now joining.
Pass that information along.
Great. Good question. Okay, I don't have anything else, and then we need to open up for public comment. Does anyone have any other questions?
We handled everything that I was curious about.
Yay.
Yeah, I have nothing at this time, thank you.
So I'm going to bring, so fiscal impact issues, I don't see anything that really sticks out except for if hours increase at the school level. What does that look like for students? What does that look like for, tattoo schools, which are usually small businesses? Things like that. So those are kind of things I'm going to be asking at the next meeting. So if you kind of come up, kind of have some ideas ready, I'll have some stuff down on paper for you guys to kind of think through beforehand. Other than that, I don't see any other big ticket areas where fiscal will be an issue as far as from changes we've made to date, except that area. And then, so we will take the schedule back to the board on May something, on May 3rd, and get their feedback on, qualification committee. I'm sure they'll be fine with what we have going, so this will be kind of a combination of rules and qualifications. And then we will meet back on the 26th of May to go over this again, and then delve more thoroughly into the qualification aspect.
I do have one quick question, I'm sorry. Being that the board is kind of being annihilated is the wrong way to put it, but there's lots of terms ending this year. Is there?
We have, hold on, let me pull it up here.
If I'm not mistaken, we're losing 3 people off the board this year.
We just got a new electrologist who was appointed, and Matthew Holmes can serve another term, which I haven't heard he's not going to, so my assumption is he's going to.
During the last board meeting, I believe he said he was not interested in that. He would only cover until someone replaced him.
Maybe I remember that now. So if you have people that are interested, have them apply. They can apply through me, or I can send you Paige's information. I can send the group Paige's information on what they need to do. Because 7 also is done at the end of 2021. I know we have someone in the works for Cameron. We're just waiting for the paperwork.
Are we allowed to apply?
Sure.
Okay, just making sure.
The only downside to applying is once you get on the board, you can't serve on a committee.
Right.
But me and Paige will work together on that kind of stuff with you. Do you want me to send out, appointment information so you guys can give it to people?
It's on the website.
Okay.
I don't think so.
And just about in your ear, I literally got 1 applicant to serve on the Body Piercing and Rules Advisory Committee.
Okay.
And I can't have a committee of 1.
Hint is what that is?
Yeah, so if you know
If
somebody,
we know anybody here, so.
yeah, just have them shoot me an email and then, I can provide any information. They can just shoot me an email back with the questions answered. It doesn't have to be fancy.
Okay. If you could send me an email, I can get it out to a bunch of people with all the information in one spot. That would be fantastic. This is Tama, by the way.
And this is Dan. I would love to see the information about the board appointments.
Okay.
So, no.
I'll just send out a little summary email.
That would be perfect.
Okay, do we have anybody on the phone?
Is there anybody on the phone? Is it unmuted, Nate?
Yes. Okay, at this time, the Board of Electrologists and Body Art Practitioners Tattoo Advisory Committee will hear interested and public parties' feedback. Members of the public wait until you've been recognized. Once recognized, please state your name and affiliation to the board and committee for the record. Anybody?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. That's all I have, and unless you guys have something, we can adjourn. And I'll follow this up with an email about all this information about the body piercers, board appointments, and kind of the next steps for our meeting dates.
And don't forget to send me that information in regards to the curriculum, so I can share it with the others.
Okay.
Please.
And the information you want for the curriculum is why we would increase it in each category. You want a justification for the numbers increase, correct?
Yes, yes. Yeah, any comments that you have in regards to the curriculum at all? Any changes that you want to see made, you can take that document that's available on the web and do your own, markups and such, and what your justification is, and that way I can share it with the others, or if you just feel comfortable with us just bringing it to the committee meeting, I can provide it a week before the committee meeting, however you guys want to do it.
Okay.
Okay, and Cynthia, you want us to email that directly to you?
Yes, please.
Got it.
I'll CC Cynthia on the email I send you guys, so you'll have her email address.
Thank you.
Okay, great meeting, good work. Appreciate it.
Everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. This has been really, really fabulous.
Have a great day.
It's nice meeting all of you.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you.
See you soon.